Ehsan Soltan. Welcome to this Tech Talk. My name is Rob Tuft. I work for In Time Tech. I'm a VP of Product Engineering. Ehsan, can you introduce yourself?
Sure. I'm the founder and CEO of SoilTech Wireless.
Awesome. So what's the story of SoilTech?
SoilTech works in the AgTech industry. We develop a range of hardware and software to help farmers and those that serve them be more productive, optimize yields, reduce inputs, reduce costs, and hopefully improve profitability. And we started in Burley and Rupert, Idaho, of all places.
I know where that's at.
Yeah, not too far from here.
Yeah. So what was the genesis of the idea? What's the problem you're trying to solve? Really, what can you do for the farmer?
Sure. The problem didn't really originate from my mind. I met a lot of farmers through my mother-in-law, actually. She works in the potato industry. And every farmer seemed to have either a complaint about technology or a desire for technology to solve. They deal with so many fires every day, and they're genuinely looking for tools to help them optimize workflows or just try to improve things by 1% sometimes. And so the original problem we wanted to solve was how to help farmers better plan their irrigation activities. So traditionally, farmers would drive between fields and pick up the soil and make a determination about how and when and if to irrigate. And while we recognize that you're not going to stop farmers from visiting the field, if we could help them to be at more places at once or only be at the places that require their attention, then we're doing a lot to solve time issues and resource issues. So that's how we started. How to help them remotely oversee fields to make irrigation decisions. But the product, thankfully, evolved quite significantly beyond then, and thanks to the farmers. I don't come from agriculture. My background is in technology and manufacturing. So I don't really know the problems, or I didn't back then, that they faced on a day-to-day basis. And I think that almost worked in my advantage because I didn't come in with preconceived notions. They told me exactly the problems that they faced, and we had the tool set to help solve them.
Yeah, Ehsan, I was sharing with you earlier that I grew up working on a farm, and then I got into tech, working for my uncle. And we would drive around in his pickup, go out to the field, walk out a little bit. He'd take his shovel, he'd scrape down to the bottom to see the moisture, how far down that moisture was. And he was guessing a lot. And then we'd also look just by like the sugar beets. If they were starting to wilt, he'd and he'd pull out his notebook and he would write down, adjust the schedule. And imagine so many variables, right? The temperature is always changing. There's different soil conditions too.
Yeah, absolutely. And as farms increase in size and scope, it's harder to do those things, to get out and and kind of leverage your inbuilt intuition because you can't be at every field every day. So I think technology helps to standardize a process. It can start with that farmer with the domain knowledge, benchmarking against what the technology does, and then he can tell his team or his advisors or his consultants, hey, look for this in terms of technology triggers, and that's kind of the time for you to do something, whether it's irrigate, send somebody to the field, scout.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I can see that they want to get that knowledge, get that data faster, right? Sooner, so they can react and make adjustments because they're watching the weather. And my uncle would always watch it, and yet how it actually shows up in the drying out of the fields could be day to day or hour by hour, right?
Yeah, I mean, in some cases, minutes matter, especially at critical times of the year, whether it's planting or harvest or when disease is most likely to occur. So having real-time insight into what's going on in all of your fields can be incredibly impactful.
Yeah, and we see these large farms, thousands of acres, right? They can't get around to all those fields. So having that kind of data in say 1,000-acre farm, how many sensors do you have in the ground?
We put roughly, and there's no one size fits all.
Sure.
I should qualify that.
Yeah.
And different crops, different regions
Yeah.
require different solutions. But generally, one every 20 acres. And our product works both below the ground above the ground, in trucks, in storage facilities. So again, there's not a perfect number, but 1 every 20 acres, once a farmer becomes comfortable with the technology. We never lead with the first discussion and say, hey, you need to blanket your farm.
Mm-hmm.
It's more of a graduated process, kind of let us prove that the technology is valuable for you, and then you can scale up into it. So 1 every 20 acres once you trust it.
Yeah. And so you talked about the 1% improvements, the gains. I mean, these farmers are operating on thin margins.
Yeah.
Right. So that 1% actually makes up, can be make or break.
Absolutely. And in many years, farmers are genuinely losing money.
Yeah.
You know, we say that they're gambling every year. You know, they can do the best that they absolutely could and get wiped out at the end of the year with a storm. And these are the guys that are feeding the world. And I think people often forget that farmers are pressured to save water, save fuel, save this, save that. But in reality, what they need to focus on is being able to grow that crop and to be able to do it year in, year out. Otherwise, their farm will disappear. And that's happening far too much. Unfortunately, the family farm is slowly kind of going away.
That's what happened with our family farm. We had 100 and some acres, and we couldn't keep up with the costs, and so we had to fold. We had to sell, and for that, and some things contributed to that: rising prices, and sickness, nematode, like I talked about with the sugar beets.
Yeah, and then a corporate will pick it up more
Yes,
likely
yes.
than not.
Yeah, that's for sure, and that's what we see, and you know, corporations are getting by; they're making money, but the small family farms are going out of business for sure.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So
They've had them in their family for generations, right? These generational farms.
Absolutely, and the hope is that you know, we can help maybe preserve their ability to farm. And I think we're at an interesting inflection point with the younger generation starting to come back to the farm or take an interest in farming. And they're typically the ones that would like to see technology deployed throughout their operation.
Good point. Good case in point is my cousin, who is about 10 years younger than myself. He took over his dad's business. So they run alfalfa, all sorts of other row crops. I thought he was going to be an accountant. No, he's back in the farm, right? And yes, he is of that generation, more interested in tech, right? More interested in learning what he can do to take advantage.
Yeah.
I want to ask you about this Creating Abundance Award you won at the Boise Entrepreneur Week. Like, what was that all about?
Yeah, we were very fortunate to win that award. Frankly, it was a surprise. We were participating in Boise Entrepreneur Week. I think this was about 2 years ago now, 2 or 3 years ago, right in the middle stages of our company. We founded our company in 2018 and launched to market in 2020. So we were just, I think, about finding our legs. And I think we were recognized for perhaps creating a technology and creating jobs around it and ultimately helping farmers. Because when we help farmers, we're helping to preserve much more than just their farm. It has an impact on the environment at large.
Yeah, for sure. So besides moisture, what can the sensor tell the farmer?
Quite a wide variety of things today. It can help to read moisture, temperature, electroconductivity, humidity, carbon dioxide, oxygen, leaf wetness. We can also attach a weather station. You highlighted weather, and it is probably the single most viewed data point that farmers are concerned about. So it does a very wide variety of things across the whole supply chain. But it started from solving one problem, which was soil moisture.
Started with the moisture.
And then it evolved,
So how did that, so I assume that evolved as you were working directly with the farmers. Is that right?
Yeah.
And you got their feedback.
Yeah, absolutely. They said, okay, great, we're monitoring moisture. Temperature's huge. It helps me to determine when I plant and harvest my crop. Can you add a sensor? Sure. Humidity, it's a great leading indicator for potential disease emergence, like in sugar beets, the Cospora. Can you add that? Yeah, sure. Probably. So it was very iterative. It was, again, thanks to the farmers just telling us the exact problems that they solved that day. We never really sought to overreach. It was always just taking that feedback, incorporating it, testing it, and maybe you don't end up utilizing the feature long term, but at least you give it a shot and they can determine whether or not it was useful to them.
So in my situation, I'm a software developer. That's what I was trained. That's what I continue to do today as I lead teams. And there's something absolutely critical about working with that end user, understanding their problem that they're trying to solve. Sometimes they don't even know they have a problem, and coming up with a solution. You and I would never be able to come up with any of these ag solutions if we didn't have direct partnership with people in the industry, right? With farmers. So that's key.
Yeah, it would be absolutely impossible. We all bring a certain skill set to the table,
Right.
But ultimately, our skill set is immaterial if we're not solving a problem for them to want to invest their dollars and time into. So yeah, it's impossible without the end user, and that's a philosophy we keep to this day and will retain moving forward.
Yeah. So in the software that we're building software for feedlots, like I was sharing with you earlier, and we have partners in the feedlot industry, and we talk to them daily. We talk to them. We sit down and design a problem, design a solution for a problem, and then we go put it in to play, and then we test it at their feedlot to see how it's really working. And we've iterated so many times on what we thought was a good solution. As we got out, we tested it. Like we call it field testing or in the wild testing, as we actually had them use it. And we're watching what they're doing in our back end, but also we're talking to them. We have syncs every week to sit down and say what is going well and what could be going better. Do you have that kind of tight collaboration with the farmers?
Yeah, I mean, just tracking back to our origination, we were founded together with farmers.
Yes.
So I moved from where I was living before, which was Taiwan,
Yeah.
to rural Idaho, and I partnered.
Quite a move.
Yeah. It was somewhat close to home because my mother-in-law was there, but I partnered with those guys because I would not have been able to guess, as we mentioned before, and they remain integral to our process to this day, not just as founding members, but also as advisors and users of the product, which is great validation, of course. So yeah, and sometimes even though the problem might be real, the solution is not practical.
Yes.
We can add a widget to a product, and it might work, but when you try to integrate it into the practical day-to-day activities of farming, it might just take too much time.
Yes.
It might be too cumbersome. And so you were solving a problem, but regrettably, it's not practical for them to utilize.
Yeah. You probably have a lot of instances where you sit down with your partner, and for us, it's the cattle owners. We sit down, we whiteboard something together, a solution. Oh, this is going to be so great. And then we go and we put it into code. We'll do some prototyping. We'll create some wireframes. And we'll actually run it by the feedlots. Hey, this is what visually it's going to look like. You go from this wireframe to this wireframe. We'll flow chart it. And then we build it, and then we get it out to the feedlots, and then we hear too many clicks, takes too long, or that's not what I had in mind even. Like maybe it's a bigger miss. But then we iterate. And we change based upon how they use it. So one of the key metrics we have is how long is it taking and how many clicks it's taking. And if you wanted something even better, what would that look like for sure?
Yeah, we've run into the same requests to the point where we're trying to remove clicks altogether and just leverage actually kind of old school technology, QR codes.
Yeah.
You can build in a whole swath of kind of predetermined information, and then the user will just take a picture of the QR code. And instead of clicking around 5 times and entering something, they've achieved the same end goal by just clicking the QR code. So it's interesting that sometimes the most innovative solution isn't necessarily the newest technology.
Tech.
Yeah.
As you work with these farmers and in these agricultural workers, you see the newer generation. They're more technically savvy. What about the older generation? Have you seen challenges with helping them use your your tech?
Sure. I wouldn't say it's pervasive.
Okay.
I think that there's naturally hesitation to use technology, but that's not just because they are of a certain age or because they're a farmer. Sometimes they don't need you, or they think they don't need you. So there is the challenge of how to respectfully communicate that you have something that could help. So in truth, we try not to overreach. If we can't communicate that in one or two tries, we just say, "Oh, no problem." So there's absolutely, I guess there's two categories. There's resistance. I don't need this, and then there's kind of hesitation. I'm not sure I could use this. So the latter is obviously easier to solve, and the former, you hope, resolves itself when the next generation takes over. So it's just about keeping respectful, understanding and empathizing with their challenges, trying your best, and if not, moving on.
Yeah. In our software, what we've seen is definitely the newer generation quick to use our software. They find it. If we do a good job, they find it intuitive. They're very interested in the time it takes. The older generation can have some hesitancy. Oh, I've never used software before. I don't want to use it. Or there's been many times we've taught the feedlot managers how to use Excel. And what we found very helpful is just sitting down with them and sharing. There is some productivity gains we know that you have. There's some data insights. There's a way to manage this. So we show them how to export their data into Excel and then manipulate. And then, of course, we can put that into our product. And what we found is the hesitancy at first is there. And if we approach it as a partnership and a willingness to be, what we're really interested in making your life better. We want you to be able to go home at night sooner to your family.
Yeah. What we found useful is sometimes using our technology, but not having them actively make decisions in year one. Farming is not like other industries where you can control alt delete and start all over again.
Yeah.
You plant your crop, and if you rely on a technology, you test a technology and it fails, that can wipe out your crop. And there's no undoing that. You have to try again next year. And so we, again, are very mindful of that. So in some cases, we'll put technology out in the field. We don't expect that the farmer is going to make decisions on the data that comes back from it. But at the end of the year, you can sit down and say, hey, at this time in June, there was an opportunity to do something, whether it's not irrigate, whether it's spray, anything. And you can ask, would you agree with that? And it's a great way to kind of demonstrate efficacy without putting their crop on the line.
At risk.
Yeah. So that's been a useful thing that we've tried to pursue.
Oh yeah, I like that. Because there's risk at taking on technology, right? There's risk in any industry. You're placing a bet, right? You're placing a bet that the software is going to work for you. It's not going to lead you astray, provide an error, lead down a business decision that's going to really hurt, could take you out of business.
Yeah.
Right. And from what our experience has been is baby steps, right? And prove things as you go. Placing those big bets don't work, especially in the ag industry when there's so much on the line.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, it's tough as a startup that wants to grow. So you have to find the balance that will allow you to stay in business, but also doesn't ultimately alienate you from the customer you're trying to serve.
Yeah, for sure. Have you found situations where you built some user design, and so you have a website where it shows all the data?
Yeah.
Yeah. Have you gone through any learnings as far as how to make it intuitive to that the old school farmer?
Oh yeah, yeah. Firstly, we involve them in the process to begin with, but involving them in the process is different from actually using it in the heat of the battle.
Yeah.
So absolutely, we're fortunate to have a team of engineers in-house that have been with us since day one, and so adapting and making changes is relatively straightforward for us, which is a great advantage over some of our legacy competitors who might not be able to react and resolve as quickly as us. So yeah, and it can be as simple as I want to move the button just a little bit further over.
Yeah.
It's the
Right.
simple
The
things
simple things.
that, again, we might not get because we're not in the field running a combine,
Yeah.
dealing with, that guy over there. We're just doing it in isolation, often in the office, or maybe in a controlled field trial, which is just not the same as in action.
Yeah. It's, we get into the room on the whiteboard, we design something up. It seems so easy, seems so simple. And then when we roll it out, and we'll have them come back in and say, okay, like I was sharing, here are the wireframes. You go from this step to this step, and it looks so simple. And yet, when you get it out into the field, into the wild, and you actually watch, we've actually ridden in a loader and in a truck, watching them use our software, and then watch them like get stuck. Like, oh, what do I do here? And it's obvious to us, but to actually watch them get stuck and like, oh, wow, that's like very useful information. And then we'll iterate. And like you're sharing, iterating fast is a key.
Yeah.
Right.
What's interesting is that it works both ways. So the user might think it's really easy just to move that button 1 inch down.
Yeah.
And maybe this is a bad example, but you go back to your engineers and you say, can you just move that 1 inch down? And it involves so much change, so much iteration, so much coding,
Yeah.
that you have to then go back to the customer and say, although from your perspective it's easy, it's actually very challenging.
Yeah.
And we don't often do that.
Yeah.
Like, we don't want to put our problems on the customer, but that's a balance we have to kind of play with internally. It's okay, they really want that, but it's really difficult. Is it worth the time and effort? It's always worth it, but can we justify it, I should say.
And the agricultural industry, everybody except for software developers, they don't understand. It's just on the screen, right? Just move that button, just make that thing appear. And we as developers in the back end, writing the code, we know how much work that is. And it's truly a partnership. What we've experienced is when we work with our subject matter experts and our product owners in our feedlot partnership, they will come to us and they'll say, we want this to happen. And then they're starting to ask the question, okay, but how much is that effort? And we'll give them options. Option A meets this feature set and it'll take this much time. Option B, you might get it sooner and more of a simple feature set. So there's definitely that partnership. And as we continue on with that partnership, we understand each other better.
Yeah, but at least you're having those discussions.
Conversation, yeah.
Yeah, it's not always the case.
Yeah.
If I have an issue with the cell phone in my pocket, I don't have that luxury of contacting the owner and working together with them. So it's nice to have direct interaction with the industry, and I think for them to have it with us.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. I think that's so key, is that partnership. I mean, our code base is approaching 1 million lines of code. All right. And so I remember sitting down with one of the feedlot managers who had gotten a little frustrated with us, like, why is this happening? And so we opened up the code base and we said, well, let me show you a few things here. It brought an awareness and appreciation to them. And then also on the flip side, when we work with them so much in a closer fashion, when we work with them on a day-to-day basis, we see, wow, that mistake we made or that assumption we made that was wrong cost them an extra hour, and they're working till 10 p.m. and they have to get up the next day for 5 a.m. feed call to go out and work irrigating. Same thing with the farmers, right? So that kind of close collaboration really helps both sides. We gain a greater appreciation for how hard they're working and how careful we have to be in designing our solutions and preventing mistakes and bugs, right, from being released. They definitely are aware of, they know what a bug is, and they'll call us up, hey, we think we have a bug here.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, they understand. And that just goes so well for that collaboration, for them to understand our world and for us to understand their world. So, and working with our customer success team, I sit by them and I hear them on the phone call or on the phone as they've called in, and we gain a great relationship with them. I mean, they become our friends because we work so closely with them. You just can't help but become so tight and friends. And when we have that commitment, I think it I think it really adds to the partnership because we want them to spend more time with their family. We want to give them solutions. And at the end of the day, when we hear, oh yeah, it's saving us an hour a day, like, whoa, that's huge, an hour a day. And now you can spend time in your other part of your business, or it gives you back some family time for sure.
Yeah, time is everything.
Time is
We're
everything.
seeing in our industry, especially.
I remember working on my family farm, and May and June was crazy busy, working 14-hour days, 6 days a week, and even on Sunday we were setting water, and then still the work had to be done. The work had to be done, and if we had some kind of improvements in time, oh, we would love. I remember when we first got our phone. And this is dating me, but we had a satellite phone, and he was picking it up, and oh wow, now you can call and talk to other people. That in itself was just a huge breakthrough, and it seems like to me that the ag industry is wanting technology, but yet they're also not as advanced in technology. Would you say that to be true?
Yeah, well, the users are not advanced. I would say the problem is that technology providers have been almost scared to enter
Yes.
the industry because they perceive it as being low volume, low dollar amount. So they are not investing into developing solutions for the farmer. And as a result, yes, they are probably 5, 10 years behind. Some of the things we're doing with our software is just digitizing paper tickets.
Right.
You mentioned about
Right.
Excel earlier on. It's just as simple as that. But nobody has wanted to enter the industry and build a agriculture specific, Excel equivalent to help them. So they are unfortunately behind in certain aspects with regards technology, but it's not for lack of demand. I would say it's just hesitancy from the companies to dive head in and solve a problem because it takes much longer to prove yourself in agriculture. If I build a fintech product,
Right.
I can probably have feedback and a result in 2 days, maybe
Yep.
a week from a customer. For agriculture, they need to wait for the whole growing season to be through to see, okay, did that help me or not? So it's kind of months and even years lead time for success for a technology company in agriculture versus almost any other industry.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I see that. The need has been there, and yet tech companies have been hesitant to invest for sure.
Yeah, and that's why we're trying to solve
Yeah.
a problem that's existed for a long time, moisture sensors.
Yeah.
It's not novel. We didn't invent the moisture sensor 7 years ago. They've been around for 30 years, but nobody had iterated and invested to the extent that there became a gold standard. So, yeah, it's just highlighting that point that even today, we're not trying to go to the moon with our technology. We're trying to solve the most basic problems first.
Yeah. Yeah, true. And those basic problems can also be paperwork, like you said. As we work with our users, we find they're still writing things out, and then those tickets, the paperwork just stacks up, and then they take it to the office, and then it gets lost, gets entered in incorrectly. It's slow to get entered. They're behind on their records. So just digitizing their paperwork can be huge, and then having that information available at any time by getting on their website. We're building mobile apps so that now that information is available from their phone. I mean, digitizing paperwork has happened since the 90s, or even further back than that. So yeah, it's solving problems that have been around for a while, for sure.
Yeah, and in farming, they're subjected to a lot of oversight, compliance requirements, audits, and so previously they'd have to sift through those paper tickets and
Paper tickets.
hope that the coffee didn't spill on it,
Yeah.
just so they can comply
Yeah.
with an audit request.
Yeah.
So, yeah, the hope is that it saves them significant time, and maybe in doing so, saves them a lot of hassle and money.
And prevents mistakes. Those losing the paperwork typing in something incorrectly, and also freeing them up from that routine work so they can focus on making the decisions that they really should make, right? Like what's the right time? How do I adjust my watering schedules? What do I do to treat for disease? Those are the key things that are really going to affect their business at the end of the day, as opposed to just trying to complete paperwork. Right?
Yeah. Get out of the minutia and
Yeah.
focus on the real stuff.
Yeah, for sure. And that definitely gets, when we work in the agricultural space, that gets people excited. Is I want to be freed up so that I can spend time on what really matters. And in the feedlot industry that we're in, it's about what's the right recipe for the ingredients to feed the cattle. What's the right medicines to use? When's the right time to treat? Was processing? Those are the things. It's not record this so that I can submit a report.
Yeah, and then it also helps with succession for the families that are fortunate enough to retain their farms generation after generation. Handing off a cloud database of information is much easier than going to the filing cabinet and kind of handing over a binder and having to remember what you wrote just so you can tell your daughter or your son. So yeah, the hope is that it helps with not just today's problems or yesterday's problems, but it helps with the future and retaining that farm and the family.
Yeah, for sure. Any AI use in your application? Any data analysis?
Yeah, we do. It's not something that we feel we need to brag about to the end user. Mm-hmm. It's more about utilizing it to create a better product. Mm-hmm. Because most of our customers, they're not concerned with the mechanics of our technology.
Right. The AI buzzword, they're not interested in that.
No, they're concerned about the output. They're concerned about how it helps them.
How it helps them.
Yeah. So it certainly helps our team in developing and iterating. And we are utilizing it. But it's not, like you say, for us to leverage as a buzzword so it gets us more investment or more customers. We use it, we hope, in a very practical way, and we don't rely on it. It's not the be-all and end-all. It's kind of just an efficiency driver.
Yeah, for sure. We see that. And it's interesting because AI is just a buzz everywhere. And I'll be talking to my family. They're asking me, how is AI affecting, your job? Or how is it helping? And so I'll sit down and I'll share with them. And it's interesting from our agricultural partners at the feedlots. Yeah, they're not asking us for AI, but when we can go to them and say, "Hey, we're going to be able to use this," and we might not even say that we used AI to do it, to either develop the code or to test the code, or to give them a little answer bot that they can type in their question, how do I do this? And then it is trained off of our user manuals, our 200 pages of documentation, and give them a quick answer. That's what they're concerned about. It's like, show me how it's going to help me with a faster answer. And then long term, we're going to be providing. We've started to build this out. Is look at the data and then show it trends. Like show, hey, this process is improving your performance of your gain in your cattle or in the health of your cattle. That's what they're really interested in, is tell me what to do to make my cattle gain more weight with less cost and healthier.
Yeah, those are the insights that are difficult to see, if not for the help of software collecting the information and then AI being able to parse it to the point where you can ask it a plain language question rather than clicking around and dragging it into a spreadsheet and creating a table. The hope is that you can just ask it, what was the best combination of feed in your case?
Yeah, and I know from my experience, what I've seen is that when you sit down and you show someone that's not technically savvy, or even just anybody who's going to use AI, like, this is how you interact. The LLMs are awesome in that way, that this is the experience. You get to talk to it like you're asking somebody, a real person, a question, and that gets translated to real answers that come back in the form that you can you can understand it. Ask a question as if you'd ask somebody else, and then it comes back in an answer that you would understand. And that's one of the real powerful aspects of AI in my experience is interact with that technology in a natural language,
Yep.
in a natural setting.
Yep.
Yeah, for sure. So that's super exciting. But you're right. If we say, hey, this new feature is AI powered, they don't really care. They're like, well, whatever.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Like, no, tell me, what can it really do? Well, we can answer this question for you.
Yeah.
Oh, now I'm interested.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. So what are some of the biggest challenges you've seen in modernizing this industry that we might not have talked yet? I mean, I definitely see that there's some challenges on our side, but I want to hear from you. Like, when you went and you build out your product, your sensors, and now the technology, the software that goes, when you are modernizing that experience, what are some of the other challenges you run into?
Yeah. So when I ask our CTO whether or not we can do something,
Right.
his answer is always yes. It will just take time.
Yes. And money.
And so the challenge is not usually whether it's technologically feasible.
Yeah.
The challenge is just understanding and empathizing what the customer actually wants.
Yeah.
And it's not always modernizing. It just...
Yeah, like you said, sometimes it's simple solutions, right?
It's a simple solution. So that's what we try to focus on.
Yeah.
The things that will persist day in, day out.
Yeah.
So it's more an issue of empathizing, getting down into the weeds and putting yourself in their shoes so that you can take that back to the team and translate what it really means in terms of a new product design or rollout.
Yeah, for sure. That's what we see too. Is the closer we can work with our end user, understand what they really need, the better. Because there's been so many times when we think we have a solution, and we even code it up and we share it to them, and they're like, "That's not what I need."
Yeah.
Right. So the successful product, the successful solution requires that tight partnership and working with that end user. Like, here is a solution. Does it really work? Have you had experiences where you've built something and you gave it out to user, you rolled out to the user, the farmer, and said, okay, now use it, and then you learn something else?
Yeah.
All the time.
All the time, because every farm is different. Every crop is different.
Yeah, for sure.
Even the same crop in a different state is grown differently. And so farmers will just uncover features for you just by using it slightly differently from somebody else.
Yeah.
So we've absolutely experienced that. And it's remarkable how ingenious farmers are. Where we have struggled to maybe consider how to advise farmers on how to install our product, just as an example, they will just come up with it like that. They say, "Oh, I've got this 2x4 in my shed, and I'll just zip tie it to that." And so, we tend to overthink, over-iterate when they will just say, "Don't worry about it. I'm going to stamp this thing in the ground and slap your product to it." So it's been wonderful learning and growing through my interactions with farmers.
Yeah, we've seen the same thing. We've been kind of blown away with how much ingenuity they have and creativity. They'll be coming up with a problem, and they'll just tell us, we're trying to solve it for them. They're like, no, we got it. and then they come back, and we've seen how they've solved it in an installation, in some hardware, or even workarounds in our software. We've been just amazed as we've talked to them, and they've been using our app in beyond use cases that we ever thought of. And it just comes down to, they've got to get something done, and they are persistent and committed to get it done, and they will get it done.
Yep.
Yeah. And so that tight partnership is just huge, because at the end of the day, we're not going to build something without their help. We're going to fail.
Yep.
So, it's been so interesting to have them, and with those weekly syncs that we have with the feedlots, we'll sit down, we share the screen. We share our screen, they share their screen. They say, let me show you what I'm doing here. Like, oh, great. This is awesome. We want to see you work, right? And then we see them, how they go after a solution. And we've come up with other ideas like, well, instead of going to 2 or 3 different places in our software, we'll give you a report or we'll give you a page that does that for you. So that's been creative on our side as we see them work.
Yeah. And you were able to do that after spending time,
Yeah.
months or years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Daily.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. And then also, as we continue to roll out features, that coordination with them is key, right? Because it's the same thing where we come up with a solution. We invent a solution to their problem, but we don't know if it's going to work or not. They have to tell us. And so as they use it, then we see it. And then we've had them just experiment with our software. And we're like, what are you doing? You're clicking here and you're going over here. And like, wow, we had no idea that's outside of what we designed it for, but yet we can accommodate that with some work. So, it's been, we thought we were building something, this small, and what we ended up was building something this big.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just as we've gotten it out. And we have to take, decisions based upon priority. Like, what's the cost? What's the time, right? When is it really ready for a certain set of users, and these other users want something else. And so that affects our roadmap. But our roadmap has just changed drastically over the years as we rolled out our software, as we continue to talk to more users and give demos.
Yeah. But organically. It changed organically, right?
Yeah, for sure.
You didn't force it. It was the end user guiding the process.
Yeah, it's all about them guiding us. Yeah, and for sure it happens organically, and it has to be that way because we don't understand their business. And what started out as, well, it's just growing crops or just feeding cattle. Like, well, no, there's so much that goes into that.
No, it's incomprehensible to anybody that hasn't spent a little bit of time in the industry, myself included.
Yeah, for sure. I just have a great appreciation for what they do on a day-to-day basis. Yeah, they get absolutely creative, and then they start to call us up. Hey, I got a great idea for the app. Like, right. Yeah. What about this?
Yep.
Yeah.
And that's when you've unlocked or earned their trust.
Yeah.
To the point where it can really be iterative.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. They really become invested in that development of the product because they see, wow, you're actually listening. And what I tell you, you can actually implement in code, and then it's going to save me time. There's been many times in the past when they'll come to us and say, if you do this, it's going to save me 30 minutes. Okay, 30 minutes in your day. Wow, well, that's probably pretty big. Oh yeah, it's huge. It's huge if you save me 30 minutes. So that kind of collaboration is key. But it's one thing for me. It's very challenging to sit down and try to test a product in our own environment, in our own little lab here at our office, and try to simulate what they would do.
Just got to get out there.
Yeah, get out there. Yeah, I remember Jordan, our subject matter expert with the feedlots. He's like, "Oh yeah, Rob, you can never simulate what we do.
Yep.
We have to do it for you." Yeah, for sure. And so, but that's been definitely rewarding because, at the end of the day, we want to solve their problems, right? And they appreciate when we do that for them. So. Yeah, it's been in my experience, it's been extremely rewarding, solving problems, giving time back, making things more streamlined, saving them hours, growing their business. We've seen our feedlots grow their business with the use of our software.
Yeah, and it's not always something that ties directly to a dollar figure.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's just peace of mind.
Peace of mind.
And that's worth a lot to a customer. If they have peace of mind that their field 50 miles away is okay, they can go back to bed at 2 a.m. if they've woken up in a kind of a cold sweat.
Yeah. Just that knowledge, that data for them. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, we've seen the same thing. It's been awesome to know, and they hit it in stride. They're like, okay, great. Like, what else can I know? Right? What else can I know about my business, my fields, my cattle because they really care about what they do. They care about there's a real for the agricultural worker. There's a real calling that they have that we've seen for them to feed America, either with crops or with beef. They feel like they have that calling and that commitment
And
that comes from
responsibility.
responsibility.
They feel it.
Yeah, so that's why I'm really gotten by helping them and partnering with them and giving them tools that make their lives, give them more peace and make them more profitable. Because at the end of the day, we want to help them for sure.
Just give them that 1%.
Yeah, the 1%, the 1%. Yeah, you're right. You're exactly right. Let's talk about this. So we talked about AI and we talked about data insights. And that's a lot of the buzzwords, right? And we talked about trying to show solutions in AI. Does the agricultural industry do they generally resistant to new technology, new fads? I mean, AI is the buzz, all right. Do they have some hesitancy to take on something, or because other industries they just jump all in, right? They're like full on into AI. Do you see them hesitant?
Yeah, there's definitely skepticism. because
Skepticism.
They've been
Have they been burned in the past?
burnt time in, time out, year after year. So there is an intrigue. You just have to show it works.
Yeah.
So the responsibility then just turns right back to us to demonstrate that.
To demonstrate.
So I would say there's a skepticism, but rightly so.
Rightly so.
Because it's not just technology that they're being sold. It's different seed, different chemical, different workflows. There's so many things that the farmer is being sold that I think they're on guard, and rightly so.
Yeah.
And it's not just about the dollars that they'd spend. It would be about the time that they would have to invest to verify that it works.
Yeah.
And for them, it's not just typing in a computer.
Yeah.
They're walking out into a hot field, half a mile in, walking over kind of potato hills to go and dig a hole when it's 100 degrees to put a sensor in. So the frustrations are heightened if you don't deliver.
Yeah.
So I think skepticism is probably the best way to describe it. But in the back of their mind, they're willing if it works.
Yeah, for sure. Because of the risk and the time commitment, there's been times when we've messed something up. We've introduced bugs into the software, and they're out shoveling their bunks because we made a mistake, right? Missed a scenario. And it's usually about the scenarios. It's like, oh, didn't know you wanted that, or didn't know you were going to do that. So that healthy skepticism is rightly so, like you said. And it's like, show me, like, let's build a little prototype. Let's try something out. Let's see it in a small scale. And so I can invest a minimum amount of time from my side in proving it. And then if it's, run that experiment. And then if it works, then we can look at rolling it further out. But it's, it doesn't ever work to go full on into, because you're placing a bet, right? You're placing a bet on technology or a bet on a solution. And so really you have to prove that out. You have to be skeptical because at the end of the day, it's their money and their livelihood on the line.
Yeah. And I found that they're very reasonable.
Sure.
They know that things go wrong.
Yeah.
They see the worst of it.
Yeah.
It's just how you respond and react to things that go wrong.
Mm-hmm.
They want you to be open, honest, upfront. And if you are, they're willing to work with you. There's obviously a limit to how much or how many times they're willing to retry.
Yeah.
But our experience is that farmers are extremely reasonable. They know things go wrong. They're willing to accept that as long as we, the company, are very direct, upfront, and genuinely want to solve the problem ultimately.
Yeah. Yeah, we definitely see that. They have an intuition that's just been there, generation to generation. They know how to farm, they know how to feed, and when they are using our product and something doesn't seem right, they'll tell us. And there's many times when our customer success team will say, so and so has a feeling about something not being right. We listen, like, okay, great, let's dive deeper, because it might not be obvious at first, but we get in and we start to uncover look at the data, look at the scenarios, and say, oh yeah, that's right, we're not calculating that correctly for this scenario. Thank you for that intuition. We totally missed it, right? Because we don't have that intuition. We're not farmers. We don't feed cattle, but they do. And so that tight collaboration is key. We have to build solutions that meet our users' needs and make their lives easier. And we have to do it in a risk-averse way, in a safe way, because of the time and the money that they're investing in trying out our solutions.
Yeah. And the beauty, I think, especially so in agriculture, once you've earned that trust, you'll have that customer for life. There are times when our customers are price sensitive, but if you've proved that it works, it's going to save a lot more than the cost of your product usually, and you will really retain that customer. So it's well worth the 1, 2, and sometimes 3 years it takes to earn that trust, because you'll have them for life.
Yeah, we've seen the same. Yeah, we've seen the same, is that once they choose our solution, they're making a commitment for life, for their lifetime. And that's a lot on our side to really understand and to commit to. And we would love to have them for life, for sure, right? And also it's a commitment from us to, like, we're selling you the solution because we're going to be there every day for you, and we're going to be there 20 years down the road, 30 years down the road, 40 years down the road.
Yep.
Yeah. That's the kind of relationships and partnerships that I really like. I've been gotten by, and I'm like, I'll sign up for that. Not as interested in trying to solve a problem for a customer and then they're going to leave in 6 months. Like, no, I'm investing as if my life depends on this, in this software, because I'm going to be there for the rest of your career, the rest of your life, and even your next generation, for sure. So, yeah. Thanks, Ehsan. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you for your time.
Yeah, this has been a really fun conversation. We have so much, as we're both in the ag industry, but being technologists, right? So many commonalities, so much, and also so much to learn from you. And I just wish my uncle would have had your sensors back in the day. Maybe that would have saved our farm. So
yeah, it's been a pleasure talking to you.
Yeah.
In truth, I didn't know that In Time Tech was working so closely on an agriculture product. So it's really great to see more and more companies here in Idaho really trying to develop technology solutions for what is one of the backbones of the state.
Yeah, backbone's the state, backbone of America.
Yep.
Yeah, for sure.
I look forward to learning more offline.
Yeah. Thanks, Ehsan.
Thanks.
Thanks for watching this In Time Tech podcast. If you'd like to learn more about what we can offer you, please visit our website, intimetech.com, where you'll be able to see the different capabilities and technologies we could provide you in your business. Also, don't forget to subscribe and follow us to get more amazing content like this. Thanks again, and we'll see you next time.